The galactic stage, humanity's unexpected arrival. In the vast expanse of the Milky Way, countless civilizations had risen and fallen over millennia. The current galactic political landscape was dominated by three major powers: the Zarkonian Empire, the Elysian Confederation, and the Volith Dominion. For centuries, these factions had maintained an uneasy balance, their influence spreading across thousands of star systems. The Zarkonians, with their rigid hierarchy and expansionist policies, controlled the galactic core and its resource-rich worlds. The Elysians, a loose coalition of democratic planets, held sway over much of the galactic east, championing diplomacy and cultural exchange. The Voliths, a species of cunning merchants and master manipulators, exerted their influence through complex trade networks spanning the galactic south and west. Into this delicate balance, humanity burst forth like a supernova. Earth's nations had set aside their differences in the face of impending climate disaster, pooling their resources and brightest minds to ensure the survival of the species. This united effort led to unprecedented technological advancements. Within a span of mere decades, humanity went from tentative steps on their own moon to faster-than-light travel. Dr. Samantha Chen, lead scientist of the Quantum Leap Project, stood before the United Earth Council, her heart racing with excitement and trepidation. Distinguished members of the Council, she began, her voice steady despite her nerves. I'm pleased to report that our first interstellar jump was a complete success. The UES Pathfinder has returned safely from the Alpha Centauri system. A murmur of excitement rippled through the chamber. Council President Adebayo leaned forward, his eyes gleaming. Dr. Chen, the implications of this achievement are staggering. How soon can we begin colonization efforts? Samantha allowed herself a small smile. With the data gathered from this mission, we can begin establishing our first extrasolar colony within the year. As humanity expanded rapidly into nearby star systems, they remained blissfully unaware of the galactic community that awaited them. It wasn't until the human exploration vessel UES Horizon stumbled upon a Zarkonian outpost in a supposedly uninhabited system that everything changed. Captain Elena Rodriguez of the Horizon stared at the alien structure on the view screen, a mixture of awe and unease settling in her stomach. First contact protocol, people, she announced to her crew. Let's make history. The initial meeting between humans and Zarkonians was tense. The Zarkonians, accustomed to their position of power, were taken aback by the audacity of these newcomers. Commander Vexlor, the Zarkonian outpost leader, regarded the human delegation with a mixture of curiosity and disdain. You claim to have achieved faster-than-light travel mere decades after discovering nuclear fission. Vexlor's translator conveyed his disbelief. Impossible. Such rapid advancement is unprecedented. Captain Rodriguez stood her ground. I assure you, Commander, we are here. And we come in peace, seeking friendship and knowledge. News of humanity's arrival spread quickly through the galaxy. The Elysian Confederation, true to their diplomatic nature, extended an invitation for Earth to send representatives to their capital world of Harmonia. The Volith Dominion, ever opportunistic, began plotting ways to exploit this new player in the galactic arena. As human diplomats traveled to Harmonia, Earth's scientific community worked tirelessly to adapt alien technologies. The quantum computers of the Elysians, the gravitational manipulators of the Zarkonians, and the bioengineering marvels of the Voliths all found their way into human hands through trade agreements and covert operations. Dr. Chen, now heading Earth's Xenotechnology Integration Division, marveled at the rate of progress. We're standing on the shoulders of giants, she told her team. But we're not just copying, we're innovating, finding applications these species never considered. Indeed, humanity's fresh perspective and willingness to think outside established norms led to breakthroughs that shocked the galactic community. Human-designed ships, combining technologies from multiple alien sources, soon rivaled those of species with millennia of spacefaring experience. This rapid advancement, however, did not go unnoticed or unchallenged. In the Zarkonian imperial palace on the planet Zarkon Prime, Emperor Vexthar raged at his advisors. These humans are a threat to the natural order. They must be contained before they upset the balance of power we've maintained for centuries. The Volov High Council, meeting in their labyrinthine chambers on the trading hub world of Velothia, saw opportunity in the chaos. Let the Zarkonians and humans bloody each other, High Merchant Zixera suggested, her eyes glinting with avarice. We'll profit from both sides and emerge stronger. Meanwhile, on Harmonia, the Elysian Confederation grappled with internal divisions. Many saw humans as kindred spirits, a young species full of potential. Others feared the disruption they brought to the galactic stage. Arch-Mediator Lyra addressed the Elysian Assembly, her ethereal voice resonating through the crystal chamber. We must guide these humans, temper their ambition with wisdom. Together, we could forge a brighter future for all. As tensions rose, humanity found itself thrust into the complex web of galactic politics. Earth's leaders knew they were outmatched in terms of territory and experience, but they were determined to secure humanity's place among the stars. In a bold move, the United Earth Council authorized the establishment of a series of fortified colonies along the borders of human space. These colonies, equipped with advanced defensive systems reverse-engineered from alien tech, served as a clear message. Humanity would not be easily cowed or conquered. Admiral Marcus Santos stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant, the most advanced warship in Earth's growing fleet. As he gazed at the stellar map showing humanity's expanding sphere of influence, he couldn't help but feel a mix of pride and concern. We've come so far, so fast, he mused to his XO, Commander Yuki Tanaka. But I fear we're headed for a confrontation we might not be ready for. Tanaka nodded grimly. The Zarkonians have been moving their fleets, Admiral. Intelligence suggests they're preparing for a show of force. Santos' jaw tightened. Then we'll be ready to show them some force of our own. As if on cue, alarms blared throughout the ship. Multiple contacts dropping out of FTL. The sensor officer shouted. Zarkonian signatures, sir. A massive Zarkonian battle fleet materialized in the space before them, dwarfing the human defensive line. Admiral Santos straightened his uniform, his voice calm as he addressed his crew. All hands, battle stations, let's show the galaxy what humanity is made of. The tension that had been building since humanity's arrival on the galactic stage was about to break. As the human and Zarkonian fleets faced off in the silent void of space, the fate of Earth and its colonies hung in the balance. The galaxy held its breath, watching to see how these upstart humans would fare against one of the oldest and most powerful civilizations in known space. Little did any of them know that this confrontation was merely the opening act of a much larger, more terrible drama that was about to unfold, one that would force old enemies to become allies and test the very limits of sentient life in the Milky Way. The threat emerges. A common enemy unites. The standoff between the human and Zarkonian fleets lasted for 3 tense days. Diplomats on both sides worked frantically to prevent the spark that would ignite a full-scale war. It was during this precarious moment that fate intervened, forever altering the course of galactic history. Deep in the uncharted regions of the galactic fringe, an Elysian deep space research vessel, the Stargazer, stumbled upon something that defied explanation. Dr. Zora L. Hatem, the lead xenorchaeologist aboard the Stargazer, stared at the readings in disbelief. "This can't be right," she muttered, running the scan again. The results remained the same. Before them loomed a massive structure, easily the size of a small moon, that pulsed with an energy signature unlike anything recorded in known space. As the Stargazer cautiously approached, the structure suddenly came to life, emitting a burst of energy that overwhelmed the ship's systems. In the chaotic moments that followed, Dr. El Hashim managed to transmit a partial data package and a frantic warning before the Stargazer's communications went dark. The message, picked up by both Elysian and nearby human listening posts, was chilling. Ancient weapon. Awakening. Threat to all life. The news of the Stargazer's discovery and subsequent disappearance spread rapidly through diplomatic channels. In an unprecedented move, the Elysian Confederation called for an emergency summit of all major galactic powers, including the young human civilization. On the neutral world of Nexus Prime, representatives from Earth stood alongside delegates from the Zarkonian Empire, the Elysian Confederation, and the Volith Dominion. The Grand Assembly Hall buzzed with tension and speculation. Arch-mediator Lyra of the Elysians took the central podium, her usually serene features marred by worry. "Esteemed colleagues," she began, her voice carrying easily through the vast chamber, "we face a threat beyond our comprehension. The data transmitted by the Stargazer suggests we have awakened something ancient and immensely powerful." Holographic displays flickered to life, showing the partial scans of the mysterious structure and the energy readings that accompanied its activation. Gasps and murmurs filled the hall as the implications became clear. Emperor Vexthar of the Zarkonians rose, his imperious voice cutting through the noise. "How do we know this isn't some Elysian ploy, or perhaps a human trick to force us into an alliance?" Before Lyra could respond, the human representative, Ambassador Julia Chen, stood. "With all due respect, Emperor, humanity has no desire for war. We came here to learn and grow alongside the galactic community. If this threat is real, and the evidence suggests it is, then we must stand united." High Merchant Zixera of the Volith Dominion chittered in agreement. "For once, I concur with the human. The potential profits from conflict between our civilizations pale in comparison to the losses we'd all face if this ancient force is left unchecked." As the summit progressed, more information came to light. Ancient texts and artifacts from various cultures all seemed to point to a common theme: a powerful, machine-like race that had once threatened all organic life in the galaxy before mysteriously vanishing eons ago. Dr. Samantha Chen, brought in as a scientific advisor to the human delegation, pieced together the scattered references. "They're called the Harvesters," she announced to the assembled leaders. "From what we can gather, they're a synthetic life form that sees organic life as a resource to be, well, harvested. They convert entire planets into massive computational engines, using the energy of enslaved organic minds to power their expansion." The revelation sent shockwaves through the assembly. The threat was no longer abstract. It had a name, a purpose, and a horrifying methodology. In the face of this existential danger, old enmities began to crumble. The Zarkonian Empire, the Elysian Confederation, and the Volith Dominion agreed to form a united front with humanity against the awakening harvester threat. The Galactic Concordat, as the alliance came to be known, was born out of necessity and fear. Admiral Santos, who had been prepared for war just days earlier, now found himself in a series of strategic meetings with his former adversaries. The Zarkonian fleet commander, Vexna, regarded the human with a mixture of respect and lingering suspicion. "Your ships are impressive for such a young species," she admitted grudgingly. "But do you have the stomach for the war that's coming?" Santos met her gaze steadily. "Humanity has fought for its survival since we first crawled out of the primordial ooze, Commander. We don't intend to stop now." As the Allied forces began to mobilize, the first attacks came. The harvester structure that the Stargazer had discovered was merely a forward outpost. More began to activate across the galactic fringe, each one serving as a staging ground for waves of smaller, but still formidable harvester ships. The outer colonies of all races came under assault. Worlds fell silent, their populations presumably taken for processing in the harvesters' unfathomable machines. The Galactic Concordat scrambled to evacuate threatened systems and establish defensive lines. On Earth, the United Earth Council declared a state of global emergency. All resources were directed towards the war effort. Factories that had once produced luxury goods now churned out weapons and ship components. Scientific institutions focused solely on understanding and counteracting harvester technology. Dr. Chen found herself working alongside the brightest minds from across the galaxy. In a vast, hastily constructed research facility on Mars, teams of human, Zarkonian, Elysian, and Volith scientists labored around the clock to find a weakness in the enemy's seemingly impenetrable defenses. Their technology is billions of years beyond ours. A Zarkonian scientist despaired after another failed simulation. How can we hope to compete? Chen's eyes blazed with determination. We don't need to match them technologically, she insisted. We just need to find one crack in their armor, something they've never encountered before. As the Allied fleets engaged in holding actions across multiple fronts, humanity's unique perspective began to shine through. Human tacticians, drawing on millennia of terrestrial warfare, proposed strategies that caught both their allies and the harvesters off guard. In the Battle of Sigma Draconis, a combined human Zarkonian fleet used a daring maneuver inspired by ancient naval warfare to trap and destroy a numerically superior harvester force. By using the complex gravimetric distortions of a nearby pulsar, the Allied ships were able to outmaneuver the harvesters, funneling them into a deadly crossfire. The victory at Sigma Draconis, while small in the grand scheme of the war, proved that the harvesters were not invincible. It gave hope to the beleaguered forces of the Galactic Concordat and bought precious time for the researchers on Mars to continue their work. But the harvesters were learning, adapting. Each engagement revealed more of their capabilities, and the Allies paid for every scrap of intelligence with ships and lives. In the war rooms of 100 worlds, leaders grappled with strategies and casualty reports. The Volith, their vast trade networks shattered by the conflict, turned their economic genius towards managing the logistical nightmare of a multi-species war effort. Elysian diplomats worked tirelessly to bring neutral or isolationist races into the alliance, emphasizing the existential threat that the harvesters pose to all life. And through it all, humanity continued to surprise its allies. The same drive and ingenuity that had propelled Earth from a pre-industrial society to an interstellar power in mere centuries now turned itself fully towards survival. When harvester forces breached the defenses of the human colony on Novus Prime, the local militia held out for weeks using improvised weapons and guerrilla tactics that confounded the machine-like precision of the enemy. Their stubborn resistance allowed for a daring evacuation, saving millions of lives and preserving crucial industrial infrastructure. But for every victory, there were painful losses. Entire worlds fell silent, their populations presumably processed into the harvesters' grotesque biomechanical constructs. The Zarkonian throne. Battle lines drawn. Humanity's ingenuity shines. As the war against the harvesters intensified, the true scale of the threat became apparent. The enemy's ability to convert conquered worlds into new production centers meant that their forces seemed to grow exponentially. The Galactic Concordat found itself fighting a war on multiple fronts, struggling to hold the line against an ever-expanding tide of synthetic destroyers. In this desperate situation, humanity's capacity for innovative thinking began to truly shine. The Mars Research Facility, now expanded into a vast complex spanning much of the planet's surface, became the crucible in which new technologies and strategies were forged. Dr. Samantha Chen stood before a holographic display of a harvester dreadnought, her eyes narrowed in concentration. "There's got to be a weakness," she muttered, more to herself than to the assembled team of multi-species scientists around her. Suddenly, her eyes widened. "Wait a minute. Look at these energy fluctuations during their FTL jumps." A Volith scientist, his multiple eyes blinking rapidly, leaned in. "Yes, I see it. A moment of vulnerability as they transition between real space and FTL." "Exactly," Chen said, her excitement building. "If we can predict where they'll emerge and hit them at that precise moment." The concept was quickly developed into Operation Thunderbolt. Using a combination of Elysian predictive algorithms, Zarkonian weapons technology, and human-designed stealth systems, the Concordat developed a new class of ambush vessels. These ships, though small, packed an enormous punch and could lie in wait, almost undetectable, for harvester forces to emerge from FTL. The first test of Operation Thunderbolt came at the Battle of Proxima Centauri. Admiral Santos, commanding from the bridge of the UES Defiant, watched as the trap was sprung. As the massive harvester fleet materialized in real space, they were met with a devastating barrage from all sides. Caught off guard and momentarily vulnerable, dozens of harvester ships were destroyed before they could raise their shields. "Press the advantage," Santos ordered, his voice carrying across the command channel to all Concordat ships. "Don't let them regroup." The battle raged for hours, but when the dust settled, it was clear that a significant victory had been achieved. For the first time since the war began, a major harvester offensive had been decisively repelled. News of the victory spread like wildfire through Concordat space, rekindling hope in the hearts of billions. But the war was far from over. The harvesters, true to their nature, quickly adapted to the new tactics, developing countermeasures that made future ambushes less effective. Still, the Battle of Proxima Centauri had proven that the seemingly invincible enemy could be hurt, could be beaten. It galvanized the war effort, spurring new volunteers and redoubling research efforts across Allied space. On the front lines, human ingenuity continued to make a difference. Captain Zora Patel of the UES Chimera led a squadron of fast attack craft in lightning raids against harvester supply lines. Drawing on historical guerrilla warfare tactics, Patel's squadron struck quickly and vanished before the enemy could respond effectively. "We're like mosquitoes to them," Patel explained to a Zarkonian liaison officer. "Each bite is small, but enough of them. And even a giant will start to feel it." The Zarkonians, initially skeptical of such dishonorable tactics, soon came to appreciate their effectiveness. Joint human Zarkonian strike teams became a common sight behind enemy lines, combining human unpredictability with Zarkonian martial prowess. But for all their successes, the Allies faced a grim reality. The harvesters' ability to replenish their forces seemed limitless. For every ship destroyed, 2 more seemed to take its place. Entire sectors of space were deemed lost causes, abandoned to the enemy's relentless advance. The toll on morale was immense. Refugee fleets clogged the space lanes as civilians fled world after world in the path of the harvester onslaught. On 1,000 planets, soldiers and civilians alike looked to the skies with dread, wondering if theirs would be the next world to fall. It was in this climate of fear and desperation that humanity's darkest impulses began to surface. On the colony world of New Eden, a charismatic leader named Victor Rask gained a following by preaching isolation and appeasement. "We cannot win this war," he declared to swelling crowds. "Our only hope is to hide, to make ourselves invisible to these machines." Similar movements sprouted on other human worlds, and even among some alien populations. The Concordat found itself fighting not just the harvesters, but the specter of defeatism within its own ranks. Admiral Santos, in a passionate address to the United Earth Council, spoke out against these isolationist tendencies. "We cannot hide from this threat," he argued, his voice resonating with conviction. "The harvesters will find us, no matter how well we think we've concealed ourselves. Our only path to survival is to stand and fight, not just for humanity, but for all life in this galaxy." His words struck a chord, not just with humans, but with allies across Concordat space. The speech was broadcast on thousands of worlds, translated into hundreds of languages. It became a rallying cry, a reminder of what they were fighting for. Inspired by this renewed sense of purpose, Dr. Chen and her team on Mars redoubled their efforts. They began exploring unconventional approaches, combining technologies and concepts from multiple species in ways never before attempted. One of the most promising developments came from an unlikely source. A young human xenobiologist, Dr. Elias Okafor, had been studying the unique biology of Evolith subspecies known for their ability to generate powerful electromagnetic fields. What if, he proposed to Dr. Chen, we could adapt this biological mechanism into a weapon against the harvesters? The concept was revolutionary. By genetically engineering these electromagnetic generating cells and integrating them with cybernetic components, they created a new type of living weapon. These biotic disruptors could unleash electromagnetic pulses that played havoc with harvester systems without harming organic life. The first field test of the biotic disruptors came during the defense of the Elysian homeworld, Harmonia. As harvester forces closed in on the planet, specially trained operatives equipped with the new weapons were deployed to key defensive positions. The battle that followed would go down in history as one of the most pivotal of the war. When the harvester ships came within range, the biotic disruptors were activated. Enormous electromagnetic pulses rippled through space, causing harvester ships to lose power and control. For precious minutes, the seemingly invincible enemy fleet drifted helplessly. The Concordat forces seized the moment, unleashing everything they had. Zarkonian battlecruisers, their main guns glowing with barely contained energy, opened fire. Swarms of human and Volith fighters darted between the larger ships, picking off vulnerable targets. Elysians, their minds linked in Gestalt, guided long-range missiles with uncanny precision. When the electromagnetic effects faded, the harvesters found themselves in disarray, having lost a significant portion of their attack force. For the first time in the war, a major harvester offensive had been decisively repelled. The victory at Harmonia marked a turning point. The biotic disruptors, while not a silver bullet, provided a crucial edge in major engagements. More importantly, they proved that the combined intellect of the Concordat species could produce innovations that even the ancient harvesters couldn't anticipate. As news of the victory spread, a wave of hope surged through Concordat space. Volunteers flocked to recruitment centers, and production of war material reached new heights. The Volith, their commercial instincts turned to the war effort, developed new supply chain strategies that dramatically improved the Concordat's logistical capabilities. But even as they celebrated this success, the leaders of the Concordat knew that the war was far from over. The harvesters were learning, adapting. Each use of the biotic disruptors was less effective than the last, as the enemy developed countermeasures. In a secure briefing room deep beneath the surface of Mars, Admiral Santos met with Dr. Chen and representatives from each of the major Concordat species. The mood was somber despite their recent victories. "We've bought ourselves some time," Santos said, his voice grave. "But we need a way to end this war decisively. If we don't find the Harvesters' central command, their source, we'll eventually be worn down by sheer attrition." Dr. Chen nodded, her face etched with determination. "We've been analyzing all the data we've gathered on harvester movements and communications. We think we've identified a pattern, a way to potentially locate their point of origin." As she laid out the theory, a plan began to take shape. It would be dangerous, perhaps even suicidal, but if successful, it could change the course of the war. The Concordat would launch its most daring operation yet, striking at the very heart of the harvester threat. As the meeting concluded, Admiral Santos looked around the room at the assembled representatives of the galaxy's free species. "We came into this war as strangers, even enemies," he said, "but we'll end it as brothers and sisters in arms. Together, we'll save not just our own civilizations, but all life in this galaxy." The room filled with murmurs of agreement. The next phase of the war was about to begin, and with it, the greatest test yet of the alliance forged in the fires of this terrible conflict. The turning point. A daring plan unfolds. The plan to strike at the heart of the harvester threat was audacious, bordering on insanity. Codenamed Operation Phoenix, it involved sending a small elite team deep into enemy-controlled space to locate and infiltrate the Harvester's central command structure. The team would be composed of the best each Concordat species had to offer: the human tactical genius, a Zarkonian warrior engineer, an Elysian, and a Volith master of stealth and subterfuge. Leading this diverse group would be Commander Alexei Volkov, a decorated human special forces operative with a reputation for achieving the impossible. As the team prepared for their mission, Dr. Chen and her research group worked tirelessly to provide them with every possible advantage. They developed a suite of cutting-edge stealth technology, combining human ingenuity, Volith cloaking devices, and Zarkonian energy masking systems. This should keep you hidden from harvester sensors, Chen explained as she handed Volkov a sleek, almost invisible device. But remember, it's not infallible. One mistake, one detection, and Volkov nodded grimly. We'll be swarmed by every harvester in the sector. Understood, Doctor. The night before the mission's launch, Admiral Santos visited the team. He looked each member in the eye, his gaze intense. What you're about to attempt may well decide the fate of every living being in this galaxy. But know this, win or lose, you've already made history. The unity and courage you represent is our greatest victory against the harvesters. As dawn broke over Mars, the team boarded their ship, the Shadow Dancer. This vessel was a marvel of cooperative engineering, incorporating the best technologies from all Concordat species. It was small, agile, and more importantly, virtually undetectable. The Shadow Dancer slipped away from Mars, quickly leaving the solar system behind. Using a series of short, carefully calculated FTL jumps, they began their perilous journey into the heart of harvester-controlled space. For weeks, they navigated through enemy territory, witnessing firsthand the devastating impact of the harvester invasion. They passed the husks of once thriving worlds, now stripped of all life and resources. The sight only strengthened their resolve. Zara, the Elysian, proved invaluable in avoiding detection. Her heightened empathic abilities allowed her to sense the presence of harvester patrols before they came into range of even the most advanced sensors. Grax, the Volith specialist, used his species' natural talent for analysis and pattern recognition to decode harvester communication signals. Slowly, a picture began to emerge of the enemy's command structure. It's like a massive neural network, Grax explained, his multiple eyes blinking rapidly in excitement. But there's a central node, a primary processor that coordinates everything. Vextor, the Zarkonian warrior engineer, studied the data. If we could locate this central node and disable it, we could throw their entire operation into chaos, Volkov finished, a glimmer of hope in his eyes. Their breakthrough came in an unexpected form. While hiding in the debris field of a destroyed planet, they intercepted a unique harvester signal. It was far more complex than anything they'd encountered before. This has to be it, Zura said, her eyes unfocused as she reached out with her Pshin abilities. I can feel something. A presence, vast and alien, but unmistakably the source we've been seeking. They traced the signal to a massive structure hidden in the heart of a dark nebula. As they approached, the true scale of the Harvester's central command became apparent. It was a Dyson sphere, a megastructure encompassing an entire star, using its energy to power the Harvester war machine. By all the gods, Vextor breathed, awe and horror mingling in his voice. How can we hope to defeat something of this magnitude? Volkov's jaw set in determination. The bigger they are, the harder they fall. We stick to the plan. Infiltrate, locate the central processor, and plant the quantum disruptor. The quantum disruptor was the culmination of Dr. Chen's research, a device that could theoretically unravel the very fabric of the Harvester's quantum-based eye. But to work, it had to be placed at the heart of their network. Using every stealth technique at their disposal, the Shadow Dancer slipped through the Dyson sphere's defenses. They located a maintenance access point and began their infiltration. Inside, they found themselves in a nightmarish landscape of biomechanical horror. The walls pulsed with an unholy fusion of organic matter and machine components. Streams of data flowed through conduits that looked disturbingly like arteries. As they delved deeper, they encountered increasing resistance. Harvester guard units, unlike anything seen before, patrolled the corridors. The team was forced to rely on all their skills and technology to avoid detection. Zara's Cheyenne abilities were pushed to their limits as she worked to mask their presence from the Harvester's hive mind. Grax's analytical skills were tested as he worked to navigate the labyrinthine structure. Vexter's combat prowess was called upon more than once when stealth failed them. Finally, after what felt like an eternity of tense, careful progress, they'd reached the central chamber. Before them loomed a massive construct, a blend of biological and technological components that defied easy description. This was the Harvester Central Processor, the guiding intelligence behind the invasion that had nearly brought the galaxy to its knees. As Volkov moved to plant the quantum disruptor, a voice echoed through their minds. It was not sound, but pure information, cold and alien. Organic life forms DKTCTE. Anomenilla. QUER. Purpose. The team froze, realizing they were in direct communication with the Harvester intelligence. Volkov, thinking quickly, decided to engage. We seek understanding. He projected his thoughts, hoping the alien mind would perceive them. Understanding is irrelevant. Organic life is inefficient. It must be harvested, processed, improved. As the alien intelligence spoke, Volkov subtly signaled the others to proceed with the plan. They needed to keep the Harvester occupied. Why? Volkov asked. What is the purpose of this harvesting? Purpose is optimization. Organic life evolves slowly, inefficiently. We improve. We PR. He CT. All YLBCOMMNI one with US. As the conversation continued, Vexter worked feverishly to plant the quantum disruptor. But as he was about to activate it, the Harvester seemed to realize their true intent. Deception TTGTD. Threat identified. Eliminating. Suddenly, the chamber came alive with defensive systems. Energy beams lashed out, barely missing the team members. Harvester units began to pour into the room from hidden entrances. Now, Volkov shouted. Vexter slammed his hand down on the quantum disruptor's activation switch. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, a wave of energy unlike anything they had ever seen before erupted from the device. It spread through the chamber, through the entire structure, in a matter of seconds. The Harvester units collapsed, their connection to the central intelligence severed. The voice in their minds screamed in a cacophony of digital agony, then fell silent. As the quantum disruption spread, the entire Dyson sphere began to shake. Systems failed cascade, and the structure started to break apart. Back to the ship, Volkov ordered. Move. Their escape was a blur of collapsing corridors, explosions, and near misses. They reached the Shadow Dancer just as the section they were in began to disintegrate. As they blasted away from the failing megastructure, they watched in awe as the Dyson sphere tore itself apart, the star at its center finally visible as the shell crumbled. As they jumped to FTL, heading for Concordat space, the team sat in stunned silence. They had done it. They had struck at the very heart of the Harvester threat and survived. Volkov opened a channel to Concordat High Command. Mission accomplished, he said, his voice hoarse with exhaustion. The Harvester Central Processor has been destroyed. The response was immediate. Admiral Santos's voice filled with emotion. Well done, Shadow Dancer. Well done indeed. Come on home. I think you've all earned a rest. As they made their way back to Allied space, reports began to come in from across the galaxy. Harvester forces everywhere were in disarray, their coordination lost. The tide of the war had finally, decisively turned. The Shadow Dancer's mission would go down in history as the turning point of the Harvester War. But for the exhausted team aboard the ship, the only thing that mattered was that they had given the galaxy a fighting chance. As they looked at each other, human, Zarkonian, Elysian, and Volith, they realized that they had forged bonds that went beyond species or culture. They had become a family, united in their struggle for survival. As they approached Earth, Volkov looked out at the star-studded vastness of space. The war wasn't over, he knew. There would be more battles to fight, more sacrifices to make. But for the first time since the harvesters appeared, he allowed himself to feel something he had almost forgotten: hope, victory, and beyond. A new era for the galaxy. The destruction of the Harvester central processors sent shockwaves throughout the galaxy. Without their guiding intelligence, the once unstoppable Harvester forces fell into disarray. Across countless battlefronts, Concordat forces pressed their sudden advantage, reclaiming worlds that had been thought lost forever. Admiral Santos stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant, watching as Allied fleets systematically dismantled the now uncoordinated Harvester ships. "It's almost anticlimactic," he mused to his XO. After years of struggling against an implacable foe, to see them fall apart like this. But the war was far from over. Though their central intelligence was gone, individual Harvester units continued to fight with machine-like determination. The Concordat faced the daunting task of cleansing the galaxy of the Harvester presence, world by world, system by system. On Earth, parades and celebrations erupted as news of the Shadow Dancer's success spread. Dr. Chen found herself thrust into the limelight, hailed as one of the architects of victory. As she stood before cheering crowds, she felt a mix of pride and unease. "We've won a great victory," she told reporters, "but our work is far from finished. The Harvesters have left scars on our galaxy that may take generations to heal." Indeed, as the initial euphoria of victory faded, the true scale of the challenge ahead became apparent. Entire worlds had been stripped of life, their ecosystems destroyed by the Harvesters' insatiable hunger for resources. Billions of sentient beings across multiple species had been displaced, their homes and livelihoods destroyed. The galactic Concordat, forged in the fires of war, now faced the monumental task of reconstruction. It was a challenge that would test the bonds between species as much as the war itself had. On the Zarkonian throne world, Emperor Vexthar addressed his people. "For millennia, we saw ourselves as the rightful rulers of the galaxy," he intoned, his voice carried to every corner of the empire. "But this war has taught us the value of cooperation, of unity in the face of existential threat. The age of empires is over. We must forge a new path alongside our allies." Similar sentiments echoed across Concordat space. The shared struggle against the Harvesters had fundamentally altered the relationships between species that had once been bitter rivals. However, not all embraced this new spirit of cooperation. On many worlds, including some human colonies, isolationist movements gained traction. They argued that each species should focus on rebuilding their own civilizations, rather than expending resources on a galactic scale. Victor Rask, the human isolationist leader who had gained prominence during the war, now found himself with an even larger following. "We've bled enough for aliens," he declared at rallies. "It's time to focus on humanity's needs." These tensions came to a head at the Galactic Reconstruction Conference on the neutral world of Harmony. Representatives from all Concordat species gathered to chart a course for the future. The debates were heated, with factions arguing for everything from a tightly integrated galactic federation to a loose coalition of independent species. It was Commander Alexei Volkov, the hero of the Shadow Dancer mission, who ultimately swayed the conference. Still bearing the scars of his ordeal, he addressed the assembled delegates. "I've seen the best and worst this galaxy has to offer," he began, his voice quiet but intense. "I've witnessed horrors that will haunt me till my dying day. But I've also seen courage, compassion, and cooperation that transcends the boundaries of species or culture." He paused, his gaze sweeping the room. "The Harvesters nearly destroyed us because we were divided. They saw our diversity as a weakness. But in the end, it was our greatest strength. Each of our species brought unique perspectives, unique abilities to the fight. Together, we achieved what none of us could have done alone." Volkov's words struck a chord. The conference ultimately agreed on a framework for a new galactic society. The Galactic Concordat would evolve into the Galactic Federation, a union that respected the autonomy of individual species while providing a structure for mutual support and defense. As the rebuilding effort began in earnest, the unique strengths of each species came to the fore. Volov economic expertise helped manage the massive logistical challenges of interstellar reconstruction. Zarkonian engineering prowess was crucial in restoring devastated worlds. Elysian diplomatic skills smoothed over conflicts and misunderstandings between species. And humanity, the newcomers who had played such a pivotal role in the war, found their niche as innovators and problem solvers. Human adaptability and creativity proved invaluable in tackling the myriad unforeseen challenges of post-war reconstruction. Dr. Chen led efforts to reverse engineer and repurpose harvester technology. Their power sources are centuries beyond anything we've developed, she explained to a mixed-species team of scientists. If we can adapt them for peaceful use, we could solve the energy crisis facing many recovering worlds. Meanwhile, the lingering threat of rogue harvester units led to the formation of an elite multi-species task force. Commander Volkov, despite offers of comfortable administrative positions, chose to lead this force. "There's still work to be done," he told Admiral Santos. "And I work best in the field." As years passed, the scars of war slowly began to heal. Dead worlds were terraformed and recolonized. Refugee populations found new homes or returned to rebuild their devastated homeworlds. Trade routes reopened, cultures mingled, and a new galactic civilization began to flourish. It wasn't always smooth. Cultural misunderstandings led to tensions. Economic disparities between recovering worlds caused resentment. The shadows of old rivalries occasionally resurfaced. But each time the fledgling Galactic Federation faced a crisis, the memory of their united stand against the Harvesters helped them find common ground. A decade after the war's end, a new threat emerged. A probe from intergalactic space appeared at the edge of the Milky Way, its intentions unknown but potentially hostile. But this time, the response was swift and unified. Fleets from all Federation species assembled to meet the potential threat, ready to face whatever challenges the universe might throw at them. As Admiral Santos, now the supreme commander of the Federation Defense Force, watched the assembled armada, he couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. The galaxy had been forged anew in the crucible of war, emerging stronger and more united than ever before. "Send to all ships," he ordered, his voice carrying to every vessel in the vast fleet. "We face the unknown together, as one people, one galaxy. Whatever comes, we stand ready." As the Federation fleet moved out to meet the mysterious probe, the spirits of all those who had sacrificed in the Harvester War seemed to watch over them. Humanity had entered the galactic stage as untested newcomers, but they had proven themselves beyond all doubt. Now, alongside their allies, they stood ready to write the next chapter in the history of the Milky Way. The stars themselves seemed to shine brighter, heralding the dawn of a new age of exploration, cooperation, and limitless possibility. The galaxy had faced its greatest threat and emerged victorious. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, united in their diversity, stronger for their differences. As the fleet vanished into the depths of space, a new legend was born. The legend of how humanity's entry into the galactic war had indeed shaken the stars, not through conquest or domination, but through the unifying power of cooperation and hope. It was a legend that would inspire countless generations across the vastness of the Milky Way, a testament to the indomitable spirit of life itself.